You. Okay, everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to the Ward 8 Democrats virtual public meeting for February 2024. I'm Troy Dante Presswood, president of the Ward 8 Democrats. I'm officially calling our meeting to order. We are live virtually. I want to thank everyone who is here on the Zoom and those who are watching us live on Facebook at the Ward 8 Democrats, as well as those who are watching on X. Happy Black History Month. Happy Heart Awareness Month as well. Did you all see the snow? What snow, right? Well, not very much snow last night, but I do want to give a shout out to DPW for all of their pre-treating. I mean, they really covered this city in salt and I think the brine that they did earlier as well. Um, it's not their fault we didn't get a lot of snow, but they were certainly ready and we were ready. And I was up and out early this morning, taking care of business. And so I just want to shout them out, shout out all of our men and women over at DPW and to everyone who has helped to ensure that our infrastructure is safe and able to travel. So we have an important discussion lined up for you today on housing here in the District of Columbia. With new policies, proposals, and choices on housing underway in the district, what does it all mean for you or perhaps your neighbor or a family member, especially on affordability? Well, we have At-Large Councilmember Robert White here who will join us in just a little bit to shed some light on what his committee has been up to regarding housing and what's next in the pipeline. And he'll also take your questions live. Then, have you noticed these signs popping up all over light posts around the ward and around town, urging us to vote yes on Initiative 83? I've heard from many of you asking, what is this all about? What's it all about, Alfie? Well, we're going to tell you more about it. And we also have someone here who will help us understand why we should perhaps vote no against this initiative. So Deirdre Brown, who's the chair of Vote No on Initiative 83, will be here. And we'll talk more about this initiative, what it is, and let you know that it is possibly going to be on the Democratic primary ballot, which is coming up in June. So you're here. You made it. Text someone, tweet them, X them, post on your socials. Tell people that you're at the Ward 8 Democrats February meeting. You can also share our live link as well off of Facebook and on to all your other social channels so that others don't miss it. We want them to watch this very important meeting. Well, let's talk a bit about last month's public meeting. We hosted a panel of experts deeply involved in the district's fiscal year 25 budget planning process. The panel included Michael Johnson, who is a policy analyst at the DC Fiscal Policy Institute, Jen Budoff, budget director for the DC Council, and Ann Feltz, who is the budget counsel and chief of staff of the DC Council. Their insights provided very valuable insights and understanding of how the district formulates and allocates its budget, as well as the various funding mechanisms and sources available and opportunities for public engagement in the planning process with the mayor and, of course, with council members later this spring. Following this informative session, we welcome Raheem Jenkins, who's the CEO of the National Center for Juvenile Justice Reform, for a thought-provoking discussion on addressing public safety and youth concerns. And while we discuss the need to address juvenile crime and hold systems and each other more accountable for what's happening, Mr. Jenkins made a very poignant remark. He emphasized that our community does not really have a youth problem, we have an adult problem. And he stressed the importance of engaging with our young people. All of us need to engage with our young people to effectively address the challenges that we are witnessing. If you were unable to join us last month, I encourage you to visit our website after this is done, of course, or to go on our Facebook page. In fact, if you're watching on Facebook Live, the next video from us will probably pop up once we end this one. There will be a recording there, and it's available for you to watch. We also discuss our Ward 8 budget survey, something that we do each year, and it's not too late for you to take that survey. So if you need to take the survey, let me drop that link in the chat right now for everyone. And that way you all can take it as I'm talking. And then for those of you who are watching online on Facebook Live, we'll have either myself or someone else will drop that in. Actually, you know what? I dropped the wrong link in there. Let me redo that. What just happened here? Okay, let's see here. Link. Uh, okay, yeah, there we go. All right, doing this one more time. All right, there we go. Now we have the right link for those of you who are with us live on Zoom. I want to talk a little bit about budget, about the delegate selection process that's coming up pretty soon. We talked a little bit about it last month, but it's important that we just reiterate it quickly for those of you who are considering running to become a delegate. Now, what are we talking about when we say delegate? Well, we're talking about the in order for us to officially nominate our president of the United States, we need delegates from all around the country, Democratic delegates, and that nomination will happen in Chicago this year. But each state and territory is going through the process of selecting their delegates who will go and represent their state or their territory. The District of Columbia is doing the same exact thing. So I want to share with you a very quick slide here so that you can see what I'm looking at. And I encourage you to actually screenshot this so that you will be able to see the information up front for yourself. And I should tell you, all of this information is available at the DC Democratic Party's website at dcdemocraticparty.org. But first thing, this slide here tells you what is a delegate, how much it costs to run, because there are going to be costs that you will have to cover if you run as well as if you win. And then how the delegates are selected. There will be a total of 13 district level delegates that will be added to our super delegates and our elected election delegates as well, our elected officials delegates. Essentially, the date that this will happen is going to be on Saturday, April 20th. 2024 is going to be at the DC Convention Center. That's the day of the actual election for district-wide delegates. And you must complete your candidacy form by March 25th. So you have about a month and some change left. And basically how the district is going to be broken down is what we call congressional districts. And so District 1 includes wards 1, 2, 6, and 8. And District 2, Congressional District 2 includes wards 3, 4, 5, and 7. Now, we will fall under Congressional District 1. We will elect 3 males and 3 females for a total of 6 delegates that we will send on to Chicago. 4 years ago, it was flipped. We did 7 in District 1, and in District 2, they did 6. So they keeping tabs, obviously, and they're trying to be equitable in each election cycle. And they also have some other representation goals that you see at the bottom in terms of African American, Hispanic, LGBTQ, persons with disability, and people who are under the age of 36. And so the last thing that the party wants me to tell you is, again, that the election date is going to be on Saturday, April 20th, 2024. It's going to be all day from 8 to 8. And they are looking for volunteers. So maybe you don't want to run for a delegate position, but you want to help out. Well, you can do that by helping the party as a volunteer. And it's going to be at the Washington Convention Center. I have it on good authority that they will at least feed you breakfast and lunch and maybe even dinner. And so that's at least what you can get for being there. But you at least get to be a part of the delegate selection process. You get to vote as well. And you get to help make this possible for the upcoming DC, national convention that's going to be in Chicago. So I'll stop there with my share, and what I'm going to do is drop into the chat the link to the DC Democratic Party's website, where you can go there as soon as this meeting is over, and you can start the process. You can get more information. I'm stopping sharing. You can get more information on how to run for a delegate, as well as download the application for you to start that process. And remember, March 25th is the deadline to submit your candidacy for this role. You know, we're talking about voting, so I think it's important that I just put this in here as well as we get ready for the upcoming June primary. You may need to register to vote or change your affiliation or update your address. So what I just did was I dropped into the chat links to the DC Board of Elections, where you can go and either register, help someone register, or you can update your own registration there as well as we get ready for the upcoming June 4th primary. All right, still to come is a conversation on housing with At-Large Councilmember Robert White and a discussion on Initiative 83 with Deirdre Brown. But first, we need to approve our financial report, and I might actually move this to after our conversation. Let me first check to see if Daryl is here. He is here. All right, maybe we can just get this out the way really quickly. And we've moved Daryl Ross over, who is our esteemed treasurer. And let me just check with Daryl to see if he is ready. Oh, you are ready. All right, sir. Welcome, Mr. Treasurer. Are you ready to present the report for approval?
Yep. You'll pull it up. This is the treasurer's report for January 2024.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. So we opened the month with a balance of $22,951.46. We had revenue of $350. We had expenses of $510.85. So the excess of the expenses over the revenue was $160.85. We ended the month of January with a balance of $22,790.61. So if anyone has any questions on what Troy has up, I can take those questions in the chat or coming on asking.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Are there any questions about the financial report? Questions? Put those in the chat if there are any questions. Hearing none, can you move it, Mr. Treasurer?
Okay, I move that we accept the treasurer's report for January 2024 for the Ward 8 Democrats, subject to audit.
A second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, vote aye. You can also use the chat.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone oppose? Any abstentions? All right, hearing none. Motion approves. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Okay.
Mr. President, excuse me, I'm getting text that people are in the waiting room, perhaps?
Waiting room. No, there's no waiting room.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I don't, yeah, there's no waiting room on my end. I do see that there are two questions. I'm not sure. Okay, there's a question from Councilmember White, Trayon White, and then there's a question from Katie Shepherd. I'm not sure if they are about the treasurer's report or not, but let's see. Katie Shepherd, you're on the air. Katie Shepherd going once. Katie Shepherd going twice. All right, Councilmember Trayon White, you're on the air.
Yes, I just wanted to speak to the Treasury report.
Yes, sir.
I have an outstanding balance due that I want to note to be paid by the end of this week. I think I gave a portion of it in cash and that was given back. So I will try to figure out the best way to do it without doing cash. I guess a check. I don't do checks, but I can figure it out. Maybe I can do a cashier's check. I just want to note that for the record for the Treasury report.
Well, thank you, Councilmember White. So noted. And Mr. Treasurer, hopefully you've heard the council member as well.
Yes, I did, and we would appreciate that. As you know, in terms of accepting cash, we can't accept cash over $25. So that is the issue about accepting cash.
All right, thank you, Councilmember, and thank you for being here as well, Councilmember Trayon White. Remember, there was one time we had a whole bunch of colors on the council. We had whites, we had grays, we had orange, and now we have two whites.
Yes, love both of them.
Oh, we have two whites, so you got to make sure you put the first name in front. All right, well, thank you again, Councilmember Trayon White, and let's now move to our first speaker, actually. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I do that, I would be remiss if I did not drop into the chat how you can become a donor. You just heard Councilmember Trayon White say that he is going to be settling up on some outstanding donations to the Ward 8 Democrats. And guess what? So can you. And so I just dropped into the chat a way that you can become a donor. Now, let me just be very clear. Ward 8 Democrats is 100% donor operated. What does that mean? That means that every dollar that we bring in, we turn it around and put it back into programming. And programming also largely includes, especially in a year like this year, which is an election year, get out the vote or GOTV activities, which we will have a lot of that leading up to the June 4th primary. So no donation is too big or too small. $5, $10, $2.50, $250. All of those funds go right into our treasury, which you saw we have a full accounting. We're very transparent of how we collect money and how we spend it. And so I will encourage you, if you are looking for a place that or an organization that is doing work out in the community that could really take those those hard-earned precious dollars and put them to work right where we live, right where we play, I invite you to click on that link there, that Act Blue link, and donate today. Okay, so among the many concerns weighing on the minds of district residents is the escalating cost of housing. It has emerged as a pressing issue. Now, whether these individuals are renters or prospective homeowners, whether they belong in a low-income bracket or the middle class, housing expenses are outpacing incomes at an alarming rate all over the country, but certainly here in the district. In fact, a DCist article about housing cited a study by United Planning Organization that said 44,000 households were severely housing cost burdened last year, meaning that they spent at least half of their income on rent. That's an increase of roughly from 36,000 households that reported the same back in 2010. The affordability concerns are most prevalent east of the river, right here in Ward 8 and Ward 7, where about 1/3 of low-income and housing burden families live in these zip codes. Perhaps you are familiar with them: 20020, 20019, 20032. So, in another recent story on WUSA 9 said that over the past 2 decades, the housing market has priced out 20% of DC's African American residents. But it also talked about something that's working, TOPA, and how that is still opening doors as well. In fact, council member council member who was here today as our guest speaker was featured in that article. So in light of all these challenges, the question that I think we're here to talk about is what measures can be taken to address these issues and foster new housing opportunities for those who are seeking to maintain or to establish roots here in the district. So to delve into these priorities, initiatives, and strategies aimed at tackling housing challenges within our community, we are honored to be joined by At-Large Councilmember Robert White, Chair of the Committee on Housing. Welcome back, Councilmember, to the Ward 8 Democrats, and happy belated birthday to you as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be with you all today and really appreciate the invitation. I want to recognize you, President Presswood, the board, and all the members of the Ward 8 Dems. Want to recognize my colleague, Councilmember Trayon White, who represents obviously Ward 8. And I also want to wish a happy Black History Month to everyone. This is important because in a time when we are talking about the cost of housing, when we are focused on the local economy and how we manage the issue of crime, we have to remember that, as we think about and revere the people in history that we celebrate during Black History Month, all of us live at pivotal points in history, and folks are going to look back at what we did or did not do and recollect either where we carried the ball forward or where we dropped it. So I know I'm among a group of people who recognize the importance of the work that we do collectively. And I am very proud as a fifth-generation Washingtonian to be able to chair the Housing Committee. Couldn't have sort of teed it up better, President Presswood. While I am a fifth-generation Washingtonian and blessed today to be on the council and chair the Housing Committee, almost all of my family has been priced out of DC in the past 25 years because I come from a family of folks who rented after my grandparents. So my dad and his siblings all rented, and the cost of rent becomes prohibitive for a lot of folks. So I've been chairing the Housing Committee for a year now, and my focus in the committee, in general on the council, is getting things done. And we have a lot going on. So I'm going to talk about housing from a number of perspectives. The first is homelessness. This is in the continuum of housing. Human services, homelessness used to be its own committee. It's been combined into the Housing Committee. So this is a place that my committee has focus and jurisdiction now. In the district, homelessness has increased by over 12% between 2022 and 2023. We don't yet have the most updated numbers, but between 2022 and 2023, we saw an increase in homelessness. A couple of weeks ago, I participated again in what's called the annual point in time count of people experiencing homelessness. So we volunteers spread across the city reach out to people who are experiencing homelessness to understand how many homeless people we have in the district. That helps us make sure we get enough federal funds. Now, what's always humbling about things like this, whether I'm in the point in time count or I'm at encampments or just walking the street talking to people who are unhoused to understand where I need to focus on fixing the system, what is very humbling is most of the people you encounter who are homeless in DC are Black Native Washingtonians. And that's difficult to digest. And it was no different a couple of weeks ago when I did the count. Now, the good news is the district has, for many years, had a very healthy budget. So we have funded enough housing vouchers to house most homeless people in the entire city. But as we know from looking at encampments over the past several years, homelessness has not gotten better despite having housing vouchers. It has gotten worse. And as I've been in encampments to understand what's going on, because the agencies will give you these complicated reasons or tell you everything is good. But as I went out into the community to talk to people who are unhoused, what I found was shocking and depressing. Almost every person I spoke to had already been approved for a housing voucher 1, 2, 3 years ago. So there are people in DC dying on our streets, Black Native Washingtonians, who have already been approved for housing vouchers, but the process has taken so long that they haven't been able to use them. So I'm in the mix trying to figure out why the process is taking so long. One of the biggest choke points, one of the biggest reasons for this process taking so long is that we don't have enough social workers. That's sort of the first touch by the agencies and the nonprofit organizations that do homeless services and homeless outreach. Social workers are the first touch point with homeless people. But they have a lot of vacancies. We also have vacancies in social workers in our schools, a lot of vacancies in a time where our students need a lot of mental health assistance too. This, to me, says that we have a pipeline issue. There are not enough social workers in the pipeline. So I work with the University of the District of Columbia to create a free master's in social work program for DC residents. So starting around this time next year, DC residents will be able to go to the University of the District of Columbia for free to get their master's in social work. That includes tuition, transportation stipend, living stipend. We are trying to make sure people from our community can be part of solving the issues in our community. As we open up the pipeline of social workers, particularly Black and Native Washingtonian social workers, we're going to start to be able to address some of these issues that keep causing problems to get worse and worse. If you want to be updated on the process and when to apply for the free Masters in Social Work program, my team will work with President Presswood to drop the link in the chat or to send it to you so that you can get notifications and be aware of where things are in that process. But right now, UDC is hiring its faculty so that it can get accreditation and start the program at the beginning of next calendar year. So homelessness, huge problem, but we also have to look upstream to keep people from becoming homeless in the first place. Around this time last year, lots of folks were struggling to pay for their rent. And obviously, when folks can't pay their rent, they get pushed out into the streets, they become homeless. So the city created the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We went through $43 million last year in less than 6 months. Well, then the mayor's budget proposal last year included only $8 million for ERAP, for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. This clearly was not enough to meet the need. So I worked with the chair of the council and with my colleagues on the council to get that up to $43 million. And then we went further and found $20 million of federal funds that we could use for emergency rental assistance and got the number up to $63 million for emergency rental assistance to help people pay their rent when they hit a hard time, to help prevent homelessness, to stabilize families. A few months ago, the mayor tried to take $20 million of the emergency rental assistance money to use for another program. I work with the council to stop that from happening. So now the amount in the quarterly allotments for emergency rental assistance will go up pretty substantially because we were able to protect that money. We also oversee the DC housing, DC Public Housing Program, DCHA. DCHA owns 8,000 public housing units, but like with the vouchers, the city isn't using all the housing we have because a quarter of our public housing is sitting vacant and largely unmaintained. It's uninhabitable. This is a huge issue, even places where people are living in public housing. This is not a secret to most people in DC, is not in the best condition. So as I took over the housing committee last year, first, I realized we had a significant problem with the Housing Authority board. There were a lot of political people on the board who didn't have subject matter expertise. We have a housing authority that needs subject matter experts, needs people who are pushing this issue forward. So I worked with the mayor because luckily she was in a tight spot and I was able to take advantage of that tight spot. to reform the Housing Authority Board. So the old board is gone. We have a temporary reform board of subject matter experts. Then I worked with this new board to get new leadership in the agency because the previous leadership did not have a sense of urgency, was letting issues inside the agency, issues of fraud and abuse linger inside the agency, and issues of dilapidated housing in public housing communities linger as well. So we got new leadership in the Housing Authority. He's bringing on his own senior leadership team, which is incredibly necessary. And I am very excited to tell you that not only did we land one of the most respected public housing experts in the country, but this brother also grew up in DC in public housing. He has a sense of urgency. He understands how public housing works or how it should work. And I've enjoyed working with him since the beginning of November. Now, you can have the right board and the right leadership, but you can't fix dilapidated housing without money. So I worked with the chair of the council, Chairman Mendelson, in the budget last year to, for the first time ever, get dedicated funding for repair and maintenance of public housing of about $70 million a year. Because of how the budget is laid out, it doesn't start until 2028. But starting then, we will have $70 million a year as a baseline number for public housing maintenance and repair, so we can get these units back to where they need to be and keep them there so that people are living with dignity. And from the council side, I'm going to keep doing really hard oversight over public housing. That has included hearings, emergency press conferences, visits to public housing communities, sometimes with the leadership, sometimes without, but I am intent on making sure we get our public housing to a better state than anywhere else in the country. We know that many people's path to housing security comes through home ownership. That's why I've been fighting to protect the Home Purchase Assistance Program, or HPAP. I recently wrote and passed emergency legislation to help first-time homebuyers who have been cut out of the program because of inequitable policy changes by the mayor. So every year, there are more people applying for HPAP than there is money, and the money runs out. Now, transparency and communication is a big part of that. I now have the agency more transparent so people know how much money is left and when it's running out. But what they tried to do was people who had already been approved for HPAP with lower incomes, some people could only buy a home if they got that HPAP money. Those people were being put out of the program by the mayor and the administration. I passed emergency legislation to stop them because the folks with the lowest incomes who are trying to buy homes in DC tend to be Black native Washingtonians. So we need to be clear about how we measure success. Do we measure success by the number of people broadly who participate in a program, or do we measure success by the number of Black and native Washingtonians who participate in a program? And I think we need to be moving more toward the latter. And so we need to be very conscious about what's happening, about how our programs are supposed to work, and how they need to work. So we were able to save those folks. I've got notes from people who were told they weren't anymore eligible for HPAP. Our emergency legislation allowed them to get back into the pool. They bought homes, and now they are homeowners. And as somebody who has a family who still lives in the district only because of a home bought decades ago, generations ago, I know how important home ownership is for our residents. So I'm going to keep fighting for more home ownership opportunities. Of course, we're also trying to make sure families have the other supports they need, like food. So my colleagues and I set up a special short-term boost to SNAP using surplus funds to increase SNAP benefits to people in need. The mayor tried to pull that money a couple months ago to cover a different funding gap that shouldn't have been there to begin with. The council, under Chairman Mendelson's leadership, threatened to sue the mayor. She backed down, and we did increase SNAP for this year. But we need to increase it going forward, because when we have fewer hungry families, we're going to have kids doing better in school. We're going to have less crime. We're going to have more stability. And that's how we fix some of these downstream issues. But of course, all these problems aren't going away as long as housing costs continue to dominate household budgets. Median incomes increased approximately 25% in the last decade, but average rents went up about 45%. So when we talk about displacement, the percentage of people's incomes that they are spending on rent, this is where it's happening. Incomes are not going up as fast as the cost of rent. That's why I worked with my colleagues, at least for rent control properties last year, through emergency, to limit the amount of rent increases in rent control properties, but we still have a lot more to do. Part of increasing the supply of housing and increasing the supply of housing that everyday people can afford, I think, is in the future of downtown. So right now, we have historic vacancies in office buildings downtown. They're about 25%. That number is going to get worse, not better, because a lot of folks are now working virtually. They're working from home. AI has taken some jobs, it's changed some jobs. So as these companies come up on the end of their leases, many of them are not going to renew their leases. They're going to downsize, or they're going to get away from those leases altogether. So what happens to downtown if we have more and more vacant office buildings? Well, if we do nothing, then it's going to be terrible for the city, for our economy, for all the things that we fund, like social services, schools, public safety. But if we get ambitious, if we are visionary and utilize this moment to create neighborhoods downtown, then we have an opportunity to create more housing, to create more communities, to boost up our economy, and to do something with all of this vacant office space. Some of it can be converted into housing. Some of it can be converted into other uses like daycares, grocery stores, different types of commercial space. Some of it needs to be knocked down, but we just don't need as many office buildings as we did before. And we're never going back to where we were in 2019. We're just never going to see downtowns that look like that again. So we need to be forward thinking. I published an op-ed in the Washington Business Journal. We will try to get that link in the chat. I hope you'll check it out. I believe this is a historic and pivotal moment for our city. And if we make the right moves, our economy for the decades to come is going to be very strong. But if we don't make the right moves right now, we're going to struggle the way that Rust Belt cities struggled once manufacturing left the United States and they were not able to pivot. So what we do right now in this moment on downtown is either going to signify the best times that DC has ever seen or the worst times. But the opportunities we have, if we make the right moves, are pretty incredible. Last thing I will say before I'd open up for questions is just, it's not housing, but it relates to housing. It relates to everything in the district. It is the top thing on most people's minds, and that is public safety. People are hurting in this city. People are scared. There is almost no one I can find in this city who hasn't been the victim of a violent crime in the past year, or know someone close to them who's been a victim of violent crime in the past year. And we have a responsibility to make sure we do not what sounds good, but what actually keeps people safer. Now, I want to give sort of one pretty simple message on public safety. A lot of people get caught up on this, like hard on crime, soft on crime. Forget all that nonsense, right? If we didn't change one law, but did a better job of enforcing the laws on the books now, would we be safer or less safe? We would be safer. So there's all this attention to what we're going to do to change, like penalties and this and that. The penalties aren't the problem. Right now, 911 system is broken. Hundreds of people are calling every week and not getting an answer. You can't hold anybody accountable if you can't reach 911. The majority of people arrested are not being prosecuted. As long as that is the case, there is no accountability. That's not, so you never even get to what the sentences are. So the problem is well before sentencing. Those are the issues we have to focus on fixing. Don't pass these laws that make things more inequitable, that over-incarcerate Black communities, and create this pendulum swing back and forth with repercussions that we've seen many times in our community. We have to fix what's broken. What's broken right now is the 911 system, it's the crime lab, and it's the prosecution rates. And so as we deal with this crime bill and this crime issue in the city, I want us to stay focused on what's actually broken and how we get safer, because we have got to make this city safer, and we've got to do it urgently. We also have to do a lot more to catch these young folks who are increasingly getting into a life of crime for a couple of reasons. One is the lack of consequences. The other is the lack of opportunities. So I'm going to be introducing some bills in the next 2 weeks that give more opportunities for our young people. And I look forward to talking more about that, and hopefully we'll have a chance to come back. With that, please connect with my office. I try to keep everybody up to date on what we're doing. If you don't get our newsletter, please sign up at robertwhiteatlarge.com. We'll put that link in the chat. We'll keep you posted. We won't spam you. We'll just keep you up to date on what we're doing. I also believe very much in accountability. Every year, I summarize the work we've done in the previous year so that you know what I'm doing. You can judge the work that my team and I are doing. I'm proud of it and I stand behind it. So we will put in a link for our 2023 annual report as well. So with that, let me again say thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to taking questions.
Thank you so much, Council Member. First of all, let me do a time check with you. When is your hard stop?
1 o'clock.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get to as many questions as we can in the next 11 minutes. I do want to just give you kudos about the social work program at UDC. And so we did put that link in the chat for those who want to sign up to keep abreast of how that program is coming along. And then also wanted to talk to you about some other things that popped up. So let's talk about how the unhoused for just a quick second. You mentioned it earlier about the work that you're doing around that. You've gone out into these encampments. The question that a lot of people have is twofold. One, do we actually have enough housing to house the unhoused, if you will? And then also there's a question about migrants that are in the District of Columbia. Many people feel that they are jumping the line to get housing. Can you speak to both of those?
Yes, great questions. We do have enough housing to house the unhoused. One, we need a system that works, and two, we need wraparound services. So if people have been living on the streets for 5 years, you can't just plop them into an apartment and expect that they're going to thrive and mesh with the community. We have done a terrible job with wraparound services. So we do have enough housing. We need the system to help get people into it more quickly, and we need more wraparound services. I'm actively working on that and have some ideas that I'm hoping to pilot in the next budget. On migrants, all of us are migrants. Most of us are migrants. It's a question of sort of when we got here and whether we got here by choice. I see a lot of folks coming to the United States looking for the types of opportunities for their family that I'm looking for mine. And frankly, I'd do the same thing if I were in their shoes. That said, we have a lot of folks who are already here struggling and who have been struggling. So what I'm trying to make sure is we have a system that can help migrants as much as possible in the same way that we help residents. So if you come to the city and you are unhoused, doesn't matter where you came from, there is a queue, there is a line, and I want to make sure people can get into that line, not jump the line. So that is mostly how things are working right now, but I'm working on legislation to make sure we are firming that up. There's a notion that people are jumping the line. That's not exactly true, but what is true is that because of what governors in Texas and Florida are doing, DC and a number of other cities have had to spend a lot of money without enough federal help on migrant shelters, and that has impacted other programs that would traditionally be funding, normal operations.
Okay, thanks for that. There was a story a few weeks ago about HPAP. You mentioned earlier, Councilmember, that HPAP often runs out of money pretty quickly. There was a story about a woman an African-American woman who was all set to, move into a brand new home for her and to become a homeowner for the first time in her life, but her HPAP money ran out. And thusly, she basically had to forfeit getting that house at that time. And as I was looking at that news story, I said to myself, why can't the district do like an IOU, for example, or some type of, promise to pay if we know that, okay, if the money has run out, if it's been exhausted in this fiscal year, we know that when the next fiscal year comes around, it's going to be reprogrammed. And so those people who are in the queue, to use your term, then, they can basically, or the bank could, or the mortgage company can get their money so that that person, again, gets to go ahead and move in. At this point, she's out, of that house, of that homeowning opportunity. So I wonder, can we think about something like that?
Great question. So the folks you're referencing, Miss Smith, we got a note from them this week. They got their house because of the emergency legislation, and we've gotten notes from a couple other people as they finish closing. I got to tell you, warmed my heart. And I want to give a big shout out to Caitlin Kochalova on my committee team who took this on personally and made sure we got this over the line. I took this issue directly to the mayor and insisted that we get this done. The problem, President Presswood, is that the money is running out earlier and earlier. So an IOU to cover a 2-week, maybe 4-week gap is one thing. We could probably work with banks to do that. But an IOU to cover a 4, 5, 6-month gap is more difficult. So what we have to decide now is, are we going to take the amount of money that people can get through HPAP back down? It was at 80,000. The mayor put it up at 202,000, but we didn't put any more money into the pot. So it meant fewer people got more money. I don't think that's sustainable. So I think it's going to have to go down a bit. But I am thinking creatively about how we help as many people as possible. And I'm not going to let folks with lower incomes be kicked out of this program.
Continuing with our questions, will the housing board still have public members in seats or non-governmental residents?
Yes, so the temporary board are public members, except for I think one government person. That board expires this year, at the end of this year, and it will go back to the traditional composition. But what I'm going to fight to make sure is that the people on the board are not political people, but subject matter experts. But to answer the question simply, yes, it will continue to be primarily public residents. And including public housing residents, which may have been the question. Public housing residents, yes, they will be on the board.
What can be done about the city taking vacant and air property back with high delinquency tax balances, waiving those balances and transferring these locations to organizations like Habitat to increase the affordable housing stock?
Great question. So I'm working on an acquisition fund that I'm hoping to get in the budget this year that would allow the city to take control over properties, vacant and blighted properties, and get them back on the market, but not just kind of for everybody, but for people with more limited incomes. So this is something that we're actively working on. I want to see vacant properties put to good use. Whether it's through neglect or people who just don't live in the house, so they don't care how these properties are affecting the neighborhood. I want to get those properties into the hands of folks who need them.
Question here about, will the council address landlord abuse and intimidation of residents? Who determines meaning of substantial renovations? All right, that's the question.
What I would ask that person to do, reach out to my team at the housing committee, talk to us about the specifics there so we can try to help. What I'm working with our agencies on right now, including the Department of Buildings, used to be DCRA, is how we determine whether or not substantial renovations or even sort of appropriate repairs have been made. So I'm working with the Department of Buildings and with the housing, what's the name? Basically our housing ombudsman on this issue. So this is a work in progress. Whoever has that question may have some insights that can help us answer that question. So reach out to the housing committee and we'll drop the contact information in the chat.
Okay, Commissioner Williams there, reach out to the council member's office there. All right, continuing on with our questions here. Is there still a 10% housing set aside policy for low income, for new construction? Also, is there an additional 10% set aside for moderate income?
Yes, there is still a set aside. How much the set aside sort of depends on the size of the building, but that still exists. Those become our inclusionary zoning or IZ units. The IZ program is something that I went over in some detail in the oversight hearing I chaired just this past Thursday. And so we have a lottery system for IZ. There are 20,000 people who, are in the lottery for like 2,000 IZ units. So it's, part of our affordable housing toolkit, but it's not something that's solving the entire problem. What I think gets us closer is if we do an aggressive construction of new housing with a focus on making sure as much of that as possible is for moderate and lower income residents. If we create a lot of new housing downtown, then that means a lot of new affordable housing in a relatively short amount of time. Nothing short of a lot of new housing is going to fix this issue.
There is a quick question here about how are we helping seniors who have moderate incomes? Not every senior is obviously low income. What type of affordable options are there for them? And then I guess a side B to that is, what about people who make $100,000 in the city? What type of options are available for them in terms of housing?
Yes. All right. So let me take it in reverse order. People who make $100,000 for home ownership programs, HPAP is your friend there. It's still, you make $100,000, still hard to buy a home, but you can buy a home.
HPAP.
I know. It's hard. It's not gonna be a big home. But HPAP helps to, this is something different than probably anywhere, almost anywhere else in the country. HPAP helps with home ownership. We also do some set asides for, so we have some co-op programs that create more opportunities, but also in the renting space. So the affordable housing that is required by law is not just for people who make like 30,000 or less or 60,000 or less. Some of it is for people who make 100 to 120% of what's called AMI or area median income. So that's the band you would fall into. We are building sort of not as much housing as I would like to see in that income span. But what's important here, and I want folks to stay engaged in this, is often the debate about public housing breaks down and people want us only to focus on housing for people with very low incomes. I don't think that is right, and I don't think it is fair. Because when we talk about wanting to help people move up the ladder, if you're only creating housing for people at the bottom, then you're not creating rungs for people to climb up. And we have to create rungs for people to climb up. And so a lot of folks and organizations don't like when I focus on that sort of, $80,000 to $110,000 income band, but it is really, really important. So stay engaged in the housing debates. Join me in the advocacy around this. But I'm always working to find new ideas for how we build more housing at various income streams. And frankly, for like what we would call workforce housing, people making 70, 80, 90, 100,000. Those folks are struggling in this city to afford to rent or buy. And we can't lose sight of that. So I'm always looking for new tools there. For seniors in the middle income band, that's a place we continue to struggle. There's a big hole. So seniors who have very low incomes, we have programs and housing for them. Seniors with very high incomes, they can sort of fend for themselves. But that middle part is really difficult, and we don't build nearly enough housing for seniors in those bands. I don't have a solution as I sit here today, but it is something that I'm very conscious of and looking nationally and even internationally for some ideas there. So I don't have an answer today, but I'm not giving up on this issue.
We're out of time. I hate that we had to run out of time with you, council member. There are a lot of folks who still have questions. Francesca from your office did put the housing at dccouncil.gov as well as a phone number in the chat for those who want to just email your question directly to the Housing Committee. Councilman, before I let you go, did you have anything you wanted to add about, there's some people who are asking about the Wizards, the Capitals, and the Mystics. I know we are at time, but if you have a moment to just talk about your thoughts on that,
Yeah.
we would certainly entertain that.
Yeah, let me just say quickly, losing two professional sports teams from our downtown is a huge self-inflicted wound. This shouldn't have happened, and I don't think it needed to happen. I think DC government needed to be more attentive, and it certainly changed sort of how I look at where I need to get involved, which is one of the reasons that I'm trying to be more involved in our economy generally, because that shouldn't have happened. That is tens of millions of dollars of tax revenue and thousands of jobs. Now, there's still a good chance that Virginia is going to drop the ball on this. The senators ain't playing, and it doesn't look today like they having it. So I think it's important that we not burn the bridge. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think they were looking to leave the district. I think they ran out of patience. We have to. I think it's less important who is in the Mystics Stadium, more important that it is being used frequently. So the Mystics are there now. That's great, but that's only a fraction of the time that that they have for programming. We need more programming at that arena. And I think there are a lot of artists and shows and opportunities to fill that arena. And so my question now is, why is that arena not being filled more? So I'm agnostic as to what we're filling the arena with. I'm more focused on the fact that we need to fill it. So I'm reaching out to Events DC to understand what's happening, what their vision is. But we built that arena. I think Ward 8 saw opportunity there. Ward 8 is overdue for opportunity, and the city needs to make sure that we come through. So I'm going to be fighting to make sure we come through.
We enjoy having you here so that you can come back another time. I'm going to let you go. Can you just let us know how to contact you if folks have more questions or want to reach out to you directly?
Yes. Thanks again for having me. RobertWhiteAtLarge.com for our newsletter. You can also do surveys there, give us feedback on what you think is working, not working about my work and the work of my team. Follow me on social media, RobertWhite_DC. Email me at rwhite@dccouncil.gov, and feel free to give all your hardest questions to my newest legislative staff assistant, Francesca Bryant. She's a native Washingtonian, so she can take it, and she is sharp. So fbryant@dccouncil.gov as well. Bryce, I'm sorry, Brian. I'm in campaign mode because that's where I'm going next. Sorry,
Yeah,
Bryce.
It's all good. I just want to echo what you said about Francesca, because she's been on it. She and I have been communicating a lot leading up to this to today's meeting. Thank you again, Councilmember Robert White, for being here, and we'll see you along the trail.
See you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you again. And so, folks, if you still have questions for the council member, he just gave you his information there, how to contact him. But some of these questions are really more, I think, of a legislative matter. And again, Francesca put in the chat the email address to reach the council, rather the Committee on Housing. And so that's housing@dccouncil.gov. Phone number there, 202-727-8270, housing@dccouncil.gov. Again, and we want to once again thank the council member for being here. If your question to get answered again, I would definitely reach out to them directly. Okay, well, we have another conversation here. This is about Initiative 83. Now, I mentioned it earlier, and perhaps you've noticed that there are signs popping up around the ward on light posts urging us to vote yes on Initiative 83. And again, I've heard from many of you who've asked exactly, what is this? And even when we had this up in the registration for those who are here on the live Zoom, you had the same question. What is this? What exactly is Initiative 83? And so I'm going to do my best to explain a little bit about that. it significantly changes how we conduct elections in the district by introducing what's called ranked choice voting and open primaries. Now, if it is approved by voters, this initiative will grant over 80,000 individuals who are considered registered as unaffiliated with a party the ability to participate in primaries, which are currently closed to them. Additionally, elections would adopt this system again, like I just mentioned, called ranked choice voting. However, there are several notable points here to note. One is that the DC Democratic Party has voiced opposition to Initiative 83, citing concerns about its potential impact on the integrity of the Democratic primaries. Currently, individuals can participate in Democratic primaries simply by declaring their party affiliation without any formal process or fee. But Initiative 83 would allow any voter to participate in the Democratic primary regardless of their party affiliation, which the party views as unnecessary since voters already have this option to register as Democrats. Additionally, the introduction of ranked choice voting is met with skepticism from the DC Democratic Party, which believes that many voters will find the system confusing and require additional education about the change. And despite what you've heard, there are currently no voting machines on the market right now that are federally certified to count ranked choice ballots. It's important to note that the DC Democratic Party has taken legal action against Initiative 83, filing a lawsuit against the DC Board of Elections to prevent this ballot measure from proceeding. It is currently in the courts, DC Superior Court to be more precise, and it is awaiting a decision that will come any day now. So in summary, the DC Democratic Party opposes this initiative due to concerns about its impact on the Democratic primary, as well as the introduction of ranked choice voting, which, again, the party views these changes as unnecessary and potentially confusing for voters. Now, earlier in my introduction, about an hour or so ago, I had mentioned that this particular initiative was slated to be on the ballot for the Democratic primary in June 4th. I had someone reach out to me to say that is not the case, especially since the case is going through the court system right now, the legal process. And so the earliest that this could be on the ballot would be the general election in November. I do want to thank them for updating me on that information. But we heard that at one point they were trying to get this on the ballot for June 4th. And so we'll ask those questions and keep aware of it as we continue to march forward in this election cycle. But to help us understand a little bit more about Initiative 83, we have Deirdre Brown. She's a chair of Vote No on Initiative 83. She'll tell us why we should not support this initiative, which is slated for the ballot box either when we initially thought it was going to be on the upcoming June primary. We were told now it's going to be in November if, in fact, it sustains this legal challenge. So welcome to the Ward 8 Democrats, Deirdre.
Thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Troy, can I share my screens? I have a little presentation and help people understand what's going on.
You should be able to share.
Okay, perfect. Give me 1 second here. 1 second.
And as she's working that out, I will say that at the Democratic Party's website, DC Democratic Party's website, there is more information there too about why they voted against this initiative to give you a little bit more insights other than what I've already explained. And so it looks like, Deirdre, you have it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you for the next few minutes.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So my name is Deirdre Brown. I am a third-generation Native Washingtonian, and I'm here today to speak to you about Vote No on Initiative 83. So Troy has already told you a little bit about what Initiative 83 is. So Initiative 83, of course, will bring, if successful, will bring ranked choice voting and semi-closed primaries to the District of Columbia. Because of this, a group, myself and some other concerned citizens got together and decided to we got together and we decided that we wanted to form a grassroots campaign around educating the public about the facts and myths about ranked choice voting in semi-closed primaries. So that's what I'm going to try and do to you today, is to answer some of your questions and let you know what the truth is. So let's start with what you've probably heard or seen around town. First of all, I'm sure you've seen the signs where they say, make all votes count. Well, that sounds great, but it's a false statement created to confuse and mislead the average voter. In our current system, all votes are counted. However, in ranked choice voting system, which is also known as instant runoff system, many votes will be discarded and not counted. Votes will be eliminated. How it works is that you rank up to 5 candidates, even if you do not know anything about the candidate or have strong feelings one way or another. The votes are eliminated when they're deemed to be an inactive ballot and are not counted for any candidate. What does that mean? It means a ballot in which there's an overvote, an undervote, or a skip vote. If there's a tie, there'll be a random drawing via a cast slot where one candidate is eliminated and randomly, randomly to break the tie. So basically, the voter gives more than one candidate the same ranking. A candidate ranks a candidate more than once or skips a ranking, the ballot is eliminated. If two candidates are tied, one ballot is randomly eliminated. Elections as we have them today are about choosing the candidate of your choice, the one that shares your values, and as long as you do that, your vote is counted. With ranked choice voting, if you make a mistake when ranking your 5 preferences, from the one you like the most to the one you like the least, your ballot becomes inactive and none of your votes count. Ranked choice voting eliminates and suppresses votes. So your next question may be, well, whose votes historically are being eliminated? Ranked choice voting research shows that when asked to rank 3 candidates, the ability to do so accurately are lowest among African Americans, Hispanics, and those whose first language is not English. Ranked choice voting historically suppresses and eliminates the counting of Black and brown votes. It is also shown that ranked choice voting suppresses the votes of seniors and those with disabilities. Ranked choice voting studies show that seniors and persons with disabilities are more likely to have their ballots discarded due to undervoting and overvoting. Ranked choice voting will make it harder for certain populations in the district to be able to vote and to have their vote fully counted by making the voting process overly complex and easily prone to errors. In fact, in New York City, which is the one that you often hear where they use ranked choice voting in New York City, in New York City, studies showed that lower income areas were less likely to participate and have their ballots, and were less likely to have their ballots counted. In Arlington, they tried ranked choice voting in their primaries and decided against using it in their general election because they said it was too confusing. Another big myth you may hear is that closed primaries disenfranchises independent voters. So you may have seen the signs they have around that says, don't disenfranchise our votes. Well, the truth is all eligible voters can vote in the general election and can vote in the primary election if they're registered with a party. They can register as Democrat, Republican, or Green Party. Under the Home Rule Act, elections in the district are partisan. Political parties in the district have the right to pick who they want to represent them in the general election. There's no interest fee or criteria to register with a party, but if you are not registered with a particular party, you do not get to pick their leaders. It's just like any other club or association that you may be a part of. Only registered members vote on your leadership. Non-members, rightfully so, do not get to vote in your election. Closed primaries is not disenfranchisement. It is freedom of association and the right to political autonomy free of outside influence. So where's the money coming from? Although proponents of Initiative 83 may be using local faces out front, I-83 is receiving funds from outside non-local special interest groups. According to their January 31st, 2024 Office of Campaign Finance report, they accepted 4- and 5-figure donations from individuals, PACs, and corporations not located in the district. Approximately $100,000 was taken from out-of-state money, not to mention additional tens of thousands from DC corporations. Why are outside entities hiding behind local faces? This is a blatant attack by outside money in an attempt to push a national agenda of voter suppression to reshape who our leaders are and what they look like. So why should you vote no to Initiative 83? One, it is, once again, ranked choice voting is instant runoffs, which historically was designed to suppress Black votes. And as discussed, has been shown to suppress and eliminate the votes of people of color, seniors, low income, and persons with disability. It also violates the belief that small grassroots donors should have power in our elections and not corporate interests. The proponents are funded by outside corporate interests, PACs, and non-district donors. It violates our commitment to DC statehood efforts and our understanding that DC statehood is a matter of racial justice. A tax on home rule is an attack on DC statehood. To be clear, we're not fighting against change. We're fighting for the protection of voter rights. So please join in our efforts. If you see someone coming around asking you to sign their petition, we're asking that if you believe that we need to protect our vote, that you not sign their petitions. In order for them to get on the ballot in November, they need to get somewhere between 25,000 and 30,000 signatures by July 8th. Secondly, if you would like to join us, you can also sign up on our website to get our weekly newsletter to see how we are moving along in our campaign. Of course, all donations of any size are always welcome. Our ActBlue link is on the website. And then, of course, we need volunteers. We need people to get involved, people to speak. We can give you, give you slides. You can go out and speak to your neighbors, your church, your association. Anything you can do to help us spread the word so people understand exactly how detrimental Initiative 83 will be to the voting rights in the District of Columbia. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Deirdre, for that presentation. I think that, you said a lot. You certainly have, I think, laid out, the predicate as to why folks should vote no on it. I do want to say that we have offered equal time to the other side. And we have got a commitment from Philip Pinnell, who is the treasurer of Initiative 83. He's also a Ward 8 resident and the former president of the Ward 8 Democrats, and someone who is no shrinking violet when it comes to issues that he cared deeply about, and this is one of them. And so we'll talk with him as well. We'll hear that side out because it's fair that we do that for voters here in Ward 8. For those who are accusing the Ward 8 Democrats of trying to shut down voting and not support, what was the question here? Why are we opposed to letting, why do we not respect the rights of voters to decide? And I want to be very clear, that's who we are. We are a voter organization. We want voters to decide. Voters have decided up until this point who they would like to select to represent them, either at the highest office, which is, our delegate to Congress, or our mayor, our attorney general, which is a relatively newly created office. But voters have decided that. And so I think it's unfair to say that the Ward 8 Democrats stand against voters being able to decide who they want to vote for. I think it's not only unfair, it's misinformation. So I just want to put that out there because we did get a couple of responses to say that. But why we are opposed, well, I laid it out for you earlier. The DC Democratic Party is opposed to this for the reasons that I explained. And so, and I'm happy to go back and repeat that. But that doesn't mean that, one thing about me, I am fair, and I am loved and respected on both sides of almost every issue because I'm fair, even though I have an opinion on where we should be here. So we will, again, allow for equal time to talk about this initiative. So Deirdre, while I'm with you here, let's talk a bit about the at-large. So here's something that people argue in favor of Initiative 83 for. So they say, well, the at-large race a few years ago was won by 12% of the vote. And so wouldn't we want a system where at least the people who are representing us are at 50% or more. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. There are other systems out there we may be able to look at in the future, but right now, ranked choice voting is not the correct system for us, because what it's going to do is going to make it so that, like I said, suppressing the votes of the I'm sorry, communities that are already marginalized. The votes are going to be suppressed. We're going to get less of us being able to really say who we want in our elections. You know, part of the proponents of this initiative keeps saying, "Oh, it's going to make it so you can have more people of color and more women in leadership." But we don't have that problem here in the district, and so it really worries me when I see all this outside pressure coming in, that there's really something else afoot here, right? And so we can have conversations around how do we try to make it so maybe it's about how we're funding elections, maybe it's about how many, qualifications to run. But to say that ranked choice voting is going to solve that problem, I think it actually is going to make things worse. And I'm almost positive it's going to change, and this may be the point that they're trying to make, change the demographics of who actually is in leadership in the district.
What do you say to people who say, well, if you don't want to use ranked choice voting, you could just simply do bullet voting, which, pardon the term, that is what it's called. But bullet voting means that I don't have to rank it. I can just vote for who I want to vote for and be done.
Right. So, I mean, it should be one vote, one choice, right? So this is what we have now. You look at all the candidates, you decide which candidate you would rather vote for, and you vote for that one candidate. That's how it works. It's been working. Once again, ranked choice voting, I don't know what problem they're trying to fix, because it really isn't an issue.
Got it. Okay. Let's look at some other questions here from the chat. Looks like there's a question about, okay, this is not about, it's not about ranked choice voting or open primaries. You mentioned this earlier in your comments, in your presentation, but can we dive a little bit deeper in this initiative? It basically it brings two separate, disinterested, disassociated items into one, which I believe is a poison pill for this bill, for this initiative, for this referendum, if it goes up for the ballot, which is the reason why the DC Democratic Party is suing the Board of Elections, because it opens up primaries. Now, listen, we're Democrats here on this page, on this site, on this meeting that we're having. But if you're a Republican, if you have Republican primaries in the District of Columbia, which some people do, if you have, statehood primaries, well, then basically anybody and everybody can vote in your primary. That's what this bill would do. That's what this initiative will do. And so I'm curious as to, you have any insights as to why the organizers would couple these two together? And then do you share my view, which is that it's a poison pill?
I think so. I think that, not to give them any tips, but if they had just done ranked choice voting, it would be a much harder fight to fight, because, of course, a few years ago, when it went before the council, it didn't pass. So, but there were many organizations, many people in the city who are in favor of ranked choice voting. It's the open primaries piece that is the most controversial piece of this legislation, because it will allow independents to vote in our primaries, right? And the question becomes, why do people who are not members of your party get to pick who your leaders are? No one does that. Like, no association, no club, no anything that you're with allows non-members to pick your leaders. So that's the piece that's really beginning to concern some folks.
Well, you mentioned it. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are the potential drawbacks or risks associated with allowing voters from any party affiliation to participate in Democratic primaries, which is being proposed by this initiative?
Well, so when we vote as Democrats, we are voting for candidates who we believe share the Democratic values. And so if you have non-Democrats, people who have said, I will not register as a Democrat, because they don't believe in the democratic values, they should not then be picking leaders. So what you have is a chance of outside influencers coming in, trying to meddle in and influence who becomes the Democratic candidate. And it might not be someone who actually represents the democratic values. That's the problem.
All right. Carlene Armstead and Katie Shepard. So, Katie, we went to you once before to allow you to speak, and you didn't speak. I'm a little nervous to do it again, but I will open up your mic if you are there, Katie. Did you have a question about ranked choice voting or about Initiative 83?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I don't have a question about that. My question was regarding housing.
Okay.
For seniors to stay in their home. I put that on the chat line.
Got it.
But
Did they
okay.
answer your question in the chat at all?
No, you did not. You told us
Okay.
to refer to the council website for your questions. But there is one thing, but I do have one concern, and thank you very much,
Yes.
Troy. With our seniors, what advance have they made for transportation for seniors to get out to vote in Ward 8 and disabled?
Yeah. So you mean in terms of does the city provide a transportation?
Yes,
option
yeah,
for-
yes. It means of how
Yeah.
the city provide transportation and who can we contact with, I know they would probably come out in the primary, but do you have any ideas where we can enhance that?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, the city does not provide transportation to and from the polls for election day or election month, really, because that's really what's happening in the district now. But if you are a person who is disabled or has a disability or you're a senior, there is Metro Access, which will come and get you and take you to a polling location and, of course, bring you back. If there's a particular candidate that you are supporting, and I should mention here in Ward 8, we have 5 candidates that are running for the Ward 8 council seat, and then we have at least 2 that are running for at-large, including At-Large Councilmember Robert White, who was here moments ago. Reach out to the candidate. They may have a transportation option for you to get to and from the polls as well. But the last thing I would say is that just like we did in November of 2020, and then also in the election of 2022, the DC Board of Elections will be sending everyone a mail-in ballot. And that mail-in ballot, you can fill it out, you can take it to a drop box location, or you can put it in the mail. I was very surprised, pleasantly actually, that a lot of people chose to mail their ballots back instead of using the drop box. And it actually worked because,
Yeah.
in Ward 8, our mail service sucks. But people did use the mail. And as far as I know, that not very many, it took a while to obviously be, they scanned it in to let you know that it's received. But most people told me they used the mail and it actually got back to the Board of Elections. So those would be my suggestions on it. We will have more information on our Ward 8 Votes website as we get closer to the primary. But right now, the city does not provide transportation services directly for anyone who wants to
Yeah.
vote.
Thank you. And one more question about the get out to vote.
Yep.
I noticed back, I am an old activist with the Marion Barry area and all of that. About getting not only seniors, getting the residents to be involved and to get out to vote more speedily. We used to have literature that we would pass out to different meetings and what have you, because I am a member of the Highlands Community Civic Association, and we talk about a lot of issues, and that's one of them, getting our people out to vote. And it's not really being addressed now, and I think the more we address that earlier, then we would have a better participation. And also in our AARP meeting, which I'm the secretary and Phil Purnell is the president, we have the senior audience, and we would like to really get them in the motion of getting people out, talking about it, talking to neighbors or whatever. But I'm wondering, is there any literature that I can obtain when I go to meetings to, sort of give people information about the primary that's coming up? because it's mostly important because, you know, seniors are a very, you know, very voting population in Ward 8 and the city.
Oh, absolutely. We adore our seniors. They've earned their rest, especially in this town, let me tell you. So I agree with you. In terms of literature, so the Ward 8 Democrats, we will have literature that we will be happy to give out as we get a little closer to the election. Literature that tells you, you know, what to expect in the upcoming. We actually are happy to come out and talk to seniors as well. If our AARP or the Highland Senior Citizens
That'd be great.
Association will have us, we're happy to come and talk. But we also have literature. The DC Board of Elections, they too have literature as well, and they will also come out if you reach out to them directly, just like you're talking to me directly. They will send someone out to come and, you know, show you how to do a ballot. They even bring a mock-up of a, they used to do this. I hope they still do this. They would bring, you know, the electronic system, the electronic ballot machine, and you know, look with a mock ballot and show you how to use it and all of that as well. So yeah, there are resources out there. The closer we get to the election, you know, even though now is a great time to start to, you know, reach out, but the closer we get to election, we'll have more information to share.
Yes, I mentioned our AARP meeting on Wednesday because the AARP is sponsoring 2 forums at the Congress Heights Wellness Center.
Hey, can you tell them to stop sending me literature? I am not 50. I'm just kidding.
Say again?
Nothing. I'm making a joke. I was saying, can you tell them to stop sending me information to join? I am not yet 50.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, call my president.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's totally
You
okay.
should not be receiving any.
No, I get it all the time. Plus, there are a lot of discounts.
You're not eligible, Troy.
I'm not. Oh, okay. That's not what I heard. They saying, hey, get you in
really?
early.
They probably said at any age, correct?
Yeah, they're trying to get you in early as possible. But thank you so much. Thank you for those
You're welcome. You're
questions,
welcome.
Ms. Shepherd, and we'll follow up on our end, and I will invite you to reach out to the DC Board of Elections as well.
Yeah, we'll probably have you at one of our meetings, at the Highlands meetings. I'll be sure to contact you.
We would be honored.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Carlene Umstead, you're live. Do you have a question about Initiative 83?
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Are
Okay,
you
all
on video or are you just on audio?
I'm on audio.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, wanted to ask a question. How are we getting out to give out the information? She had mentioned about literature. That was one of my questions as well.
What is the question?
About literature. Miss Shepherd had mentioned about literature. That was one of my questions. But
What is your question?
My question is, how is she getting, or where is she giving out the literature to?
Oh, where is she giving it?
And where can we obtain some? But also, since the kids are now at the age of 16, are you giving them that information as well so that they can be informed on our younger voters that we're now trying to prepare and condition them for voting? Can she hear me?
I'm trying to understand what your questions are. You asking where is she getting the literature from the Ward 8 Democrats from?
No. I'm asking, where is the literature that Ms. Brown has that she can give to the community? Like,
she doesn't
so
have
we can
it yet.
circulate it. So we can circulate it in the community.
Gotcha. Oh, Miss Brown. Okay, gotcha. All right. Sorry. I thought you were talking about what Miss Shepherd brought up earlier about Ward 8 literature. Okay, got you. That's a question for Deirdre.
Yes. And
Yes.
then the other question I have is, Deirdre, are you going into the schools, since you do have high school students who are now 17 and 18 who are going to be early voters so that they also can be informed? Is that making sense?
Yep.
Got me? Okay.
I got you now. We
Wait,
can't
what
hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I had to.
We lost your picture, but we can hear you.
I know. I apologize. I had to switch to my phone because I'm in my car and my computer died. What I was going to say was that yes, we have talked about going into the schools. Can you hear me still, Troy?
Yep,
Okay,
we can
good.
hear you. And we can see you.
Good. I was trying to fix it at the same time. Yeah, so we had talked about going to the schools, trying to get out as much information. We've talked to a couple of the charter schools about trying to get in to talk to their juniors and seniors about voter registration, and then about Initiative 83, and really doing a civic lessons on what does it mean to vote. What is the difference between ranked choice voting and semi-closed and closed primaries? Right now, all the information we have, I would encourage you to go to our website, which is voteno83.com. And just if you fill out the contact form, we're in the process, we're grassroots. So we're still in the process of trying to raise funds to be able to get literature together, to get out there and get it out into the community. So the best way is if you go ahead and just sign up to so we can stay in touch with you. That's the best way right now. So when we're ready to roll that out, you'll be made aware of that development.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Chair Carleen Armstead. There is a question about how are you combating the misinformation campaign about this, addressing voter suppression? I would say coming to events like this and forums like this where you get to talk openly, but what other ways are you doing that?
We have the website. The website on it has a little short video. It also has a facts section, which is facts and myths. So we say, here's the myth, this is the facts. And then other than that, just going out into the community and really just trying to spread the word so that people understand. It's a confusing subject, right? What is ranked choice voting? What is semi-closed primaries? Most people most voters aren't informed. And so we really have to get out, and we're relying on meetings like this, everyone who's on this call, to go and tell your neighbors to let them know about this situation.
There was a question that asked me, why were we only hearing one side of this? And I mentioned earlier that we will have on Philip Pinnell, who is the treasurer of the Initiative 83 initiative or ballot initiative, who will come and present the other side. But to be clear, they said, well, could this have benefits to Democrats? I think the party believes, and the members of the party believe, that this could be detrimental to the party, actually. I always liken it to, if I'm having a party at my house, I send out an invitation to everyone. Everyone gets an invitation. What I require is that you check off that you're coming, that I know who you are, because I can make room and provision for you. So, tell me that you're coming. That's all. Check a little box and send it back and say, I'll be there, or respond and say, I'll be there. That's it. That's all you got to do. And so, if everyone just showed up without telling me, then, we're going to run out of booze, or food for those of you who don't drink. The other question that came up here is, and by the way, if you want to add on to that, please do. There was also a question around why aren't independents able to vote in primaries? You want to take that on, Deirdre?
So right now, the DC under the Home Rule Act only recognizes Democrats, Republicans, and Green Party. And so if the independents, in order for the independents to vote, they need to register in one of those parties. That's just how our system is set up at the moment. I'm not sure what would stop that. I don't really know voter law enough to be able to say what steps they would need to take if they want to have an independent primary. But as it stands right now, you need to be registered in one of those parties in order to vote in the primaries in June.
Thank you for that. And so, Wanda Lockridge, you have a question?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. And first, Deirdre, I just want to commend you and your team for stepping out. There were times when I asked the party chair, what were we going to do in terms of educating? Because this is an uphill battle for us, quite frankly, in my opinion, because just frankly, the way that it's worded, it makes people think that, oh, if I vote yes, then my vote is going to count. And so I stand ready to be supportive. I'm going to go to the website. I'm going to volunteer, because I think it's up to us now, because we have the information to go out into the community and share what we know about the impact this will have if it's passed. So to the members here, I challenge each member and all the callers on this phone, if you believe that we should vote no, then take it upon yourselves, as we all will, and just educate our neighbors, because it's going to be about an education. We don't have the money. As you can see what Deirdre presented, how much money is coming from the outside of our communities to make sure this is passed. So again, it has to be a grassroots opportunity. And again, I challenge everyone on this platform to share the information that was shared for us today. So thank you, Deirdre, so much for coming and sharing this information. I'm 100% in support of a no vote. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And we look forward to working with Ward 8 and especially in our Ward 8 and 7. We know that this is going to be a big issue that we need to get out to those wards. Thank you.
Thank you. Final thoughts, Deirdre.
The final thoughts is, listen, I know people and I've heard people say, oh, everyone has the right to be on the ballot. You're right. If you're a candidate, I sign people's petitions all the time. It's petition signing season, right? But this is about an initiative. And the question is, do you want to contribute to that initiative being on the ballot? Because if you don't, then you shouldn't be signing that petition. If you don't believe in what it stands for, then don't sign to help get it on the ballot. Once again, you can find out information and join us in our fight at voteno83.com.
Well, Deirdre, thank you for joining us here today. I imagine that we will likely see you again, or someone from the initiative again, or from the party at least, as we get the latest on the lawsuit that's currently in the courts, and then we'll see where it goes from here. But as has been noted several times, the party's official position on this is that we are not in support of Initiative 83 in any of its iterations, especially with that poison pill that the organizers did to that initiative, which is by saying, oh, and by the way, we want to open up your primaries.
Right.
I would say something a little stronger, but I should stop there. So I thank you so much, Deirdre Brown, who is with the Vote No Against Initiative 83. And again, you can go to the website and get more information, and you'll share your slides and we can post them on our website as well.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Love to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have time for any announcements. We have open forum. Maybe you heard something here today that you don't agree with. Maybe it's something I said, or you heard one of our guests say. I hear you out. I'm happy to hear you out. At the same time, we also want to use this time constructively to let folks know if there's any events or activities going on in our community that we want residents to be aware of before we close out and adjourn our meeting. So I should also say it's any new business, old business, or committee reports. So this is the time that we will do that before we adjourn. I do see there's a question from our Ward 8 committee man, David Meadows. David, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, everyone. I just don't understand why we would allow the proposers of the initiative to speak to the body when the body has already voted to not support the proposers, the Initiative 83. So I guess I'd like to make a motion that we do not engage with the Initiative 83 committee, and we move forward to help defeat Initiative 83. Do I have a second?
David, I'll second your motion.
Thank you for the motion. And it's been seconded. I just want to
second as well.
Just want to make sure that it is in order. If you will hold off on that, because I do need to check our bylaws. Anything else? Any other questions or comments from the community? Any announcements that you want to bring forth, or any updates? Carlene Armstead, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I wanted to ask, well, we were talking about housing, but I'll have to reach out to Councilmember At-Large Robert White about my housing issue. But my concern was that since it's a quasi-government, how much influence do we have since still HUD has the final say to some point?
Did you say something about HUD?
I said, since housing is under a quasi-government, that means housing is district as well as HUD government.
Yes.
Directed. Then how much rule or how much say does district have since housing is still being funded through HUD?
Yeah, great question for the council member. I know that, as far as I understand, well, I don't want to speak for the council member because I might get something wrong here, but I do know that the mayor makes appointments to that particular board. The council approves those representatives to the board. So there's still a lot of local control, a lot of say in how it all pans out. But as far as specifically, you know, what can be done to ensure that there's more local voice, more of a local voice on that board, I think, you know, the council members are the ones to really reach out to. I see
because some years past, we were not quasi. Housing was under government, under district government. And then they changed it. And then it's almost like the water company, almost in that same structure that board controls and operates almost as a separate and private entity.
Noted. Gotcha. Anything else? Daryl?
Good afternoon again. This is kind of directed to Wanda and Sheila in terms of some things, I guess, in the education vein, and if they could, you know, weigh in or see if they could put it on their plate in terms of maybe potential hearings or coming back with some information, you know, to the organization. One thing is Montgomery County, I know, has a program where high schoolers can get their associate's degree at Montgomery County College, and it's kind of wrapped together. And I wonder if that's something that could be considered for, you know, DC high schoolers, and whether any funding could go towards that. Another thing is reaching out to engage the chancellor to have or to come up with some kind of a Marshall Plan for Ballou and Anacostia high schools, because according to greatschools.org, those schools are, you know, typically down at the bottom, meaning when you're using a ranking of 1 to 10, they perennially come up with rankings of anywhere from 2 to 4 out of 10. When you have schools like Thurgood Marshall or Friendship or School Without Walls or Jackson Reed, those schools are all up around 9 and 8 to 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. And so there needs to be some kind of a Marshall Plan for the chancellor, to start turning those schools around so that they're not continually at the bottom of the barrel. Another thing is, I believe the council members talked about at the budget meeting, I understand, about the mechanic bays at Ballou High School. What I wanted to know is, there was supposed to be an agreement between the UDC Community College and Ballou about an automotive program. The agreement was stuck down at DCPS headquarters. Did that agreement ever get executed where the program is actually up and running. Because it's one thing to just talk about their bays at Ballou, but if nothing is being done with them, such as a functioning automotive program, what good is it to talk about it? Another thing is that was talked about was
how many you got there?
Okay. Just two more.
Oh.
Two more.
Can you at
and
least come on camera so people can see you? Otherwise,
okay.
they're
Sorry about that,
they're
Troy.
just looking at your name.
Oh, sorry about that, Troy.
All right.
Okay. Okay. It's somehow not letting me start the video because you stopped it. Troy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Another thing was about the cadet program. And I guess this was mainly about maybe the MPD cadet program. And it was talking about from the numbers, it seemed like the numbers were pretty low. And I just think that there needs to be in hearings or what have you, MPD, Fire and EMS, the DC National Guard, they need to all be put on the spot, because I don't think they're getting into the high schools in junior and senior year to speak to the young people about all of these cadet programs in the academies. And it's a means to get new recruits. It's a means to put some money in their pockets and to occupy their time. And it's talk about the paltry numbers that are signing up for any of those three things. It's just doesn't make sense to me. And there needs to be a better strategy and a better penetration. And that needs to be something that's talked about. And finally, I've asked this question before, and I don't think we've ever gotten an answer. Who regulates these tobacco stores? ABRA, I don't think does it, or whatever it's called now. I don't think they do it. Is it something you can come back and let us know who regulates these tobacco stores? Because the stuff that we're seeing in front of these tobacco stores, the incommoding and everything, particularly with the one on Atlantic at South Capitol, it just shouldn't continue, and it shouldn't go on. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Daryl. Are those were you simply doing a brain dump, or were those questions you were trying to get answers to by somebody on this call, on this Zoom?
Well, so these were kind of directed towards, Councilmember Gray's office and Councilmember Trayon White's office. So, we have Wanda on and we have Sheila on here. These are things that should be taken up, considered, and coming back to us.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do have a motion on the floor.
Yeah,
This is parliamentary
if you
procedure.
just hold on one second, David, I was coming to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think those are all great questions. I think both the chief of staffs of Ward 8 council member and the Ward 7 council member have both heard you. As we are running out of time, I would ask that they respond directly to you. I'm trying to think, is there anybody from Councilmember Robert White's office still on? Because if they are on or listening, I would also invite them to do the same exact thing, to reach out to you directly. And to answer those questions. I think they're all great questions, especially around the regulation of tobacco stores. I believe they're just stores, they're retail stores. There's no regulation beyond that. All right, let's go back to the motion here. Thank you, David. I sent you a little text in the thing, but I don't know if you saw it. Nevertheless, I did review our bylaws in that time that I had during the conversation or during the speech from Daryl. And I'm fine with the motion proceeding as it is. There's nothing that tells us that we cannot do it, so that means we can. And so the motion on the floor is to support. And by the way, that's why I had to pause the conversation, David, because I had to go and check our bylaws to make sure that it was proper. All right. With that being said, the motion is on the floor, and David, if you will go ahead and repeat the motion for us to vote on.
Well, I guess I would just alter the motion to say that the Ward 8 Democratic Committee stands with its parent body, the DC Democratic Committee, and vote against Initiative 83, a vote against supporting Initiative 83. And also to deny those individuals in support of Initiative 83 to address our body.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion. I recognize myself. How do we deny people from you mean officially? Because they can literally come in and sort of ask to speak.
They can speak from the floor, as any member has that right. Gotcha. But I would find that akin, maybe then the following month we would have the DC GOP come in and speak about how great Donald Trump is, so these are things, if we are not in favor of, we should not waste our times and energy to have people convince us to be in favor of. So I would think that we should vote to show our support along with our parent body, the Democratic Party of DC, and truly vote against Initiative 83 and against any formal programs in support of Initiative 83.
Got it. Further discussion? Further discussion? Is this a motion for the executive committee, or is this a motion for the body? The body. Okay, gotcha. I see two hands raised out among attendees. Carleen Armstead, is your hand raised to talk on this issue?
No, it's not.
Okay. And there's another hand raised from Philip Pinnell. Philip, you're unmuted. Philip going once. Philip going twice.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President and my fellow Ward 8 Democrats, as a founder of this organization, I never thought I would live to see the day when the Ward 8 Democrats would be so unfair and so anti-intellectual as to deny a member of this organization from speaking about an issue. Some of the things that Ms. Brown said today and some of the things that are on her organization's website are absolutely incorrect. And also, I, as the treasurer, of the Make All Votes Count DC committee, has pretty much been personally attacked on that website, and I don't appreciate it one bit. And I think it is only fair that the Ward 8 Democrats actually hear from a long-standing member in terms of at least trying to clear up some not only misinformation but some disinformation that is being given. However, if the Ward 8 Democrats feel that they can neither give me at least a modicum of courtesy to at least respond to some personal attacks, based on, some disinformation, then hey, like it is what it is. Like I am an elderly Black gay man living in the poorest part of town, and I know what it means to be ignored and neglected, marginalized, and excluded. So that's the way I feel. If like if the Ward 8 Democrats do not think that if they don't have the decency and courtesy to even listen to me, then I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Also, Mr. President, in order to have a vote, we have to at least determine that there's a presence of a quorum. Therefore, I make a quorum call, which is permissible under Robert's Rules of Order. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Further discussion?
Can I just add that my attack is not personal, it is political.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move for the motion. And I certainly accept the request by Pinnell in terms of asking that A, there's a quorum, and then B, that those who are voting for this actually are Ward 8 Democratic voters. And what we would ask you to do, and by the way, I would say that we are a quorum. It is the opinion of the chair, we are a quorum to all who are here with us. And both who we have as panelists and then also who we have as in the attendee area. With that being said, I would ask that you would use the chat feature since it is open for those who vote either yay, nay, or abstention. Let the voting commence. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. Wait, Sheila, you're in here twice, so I can only count you once.
Sorry, I couldn't tell if it took. So sorry.
Okay, I'm actually counting. Wish me luck. Okay.
Troy, for some reason my
Okay,
I'm locked out.
What is your vote?
Yay. I'm locked out for some reason.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Katie Shepherd, yes. Okay. All right, giving this another 15 seconds.
It's 15 people for the quorum pursuant to bylaw.
Okay, no more vote. Let me just make sure I'm checking the chat. Okay, I mean the Q&A. No more votes. Oh, I have one more. Okay. Okay. They've been amended, David, but that's still correct. Okay. All right. So with that being said, the votes, the yays have it. By my official count, I have 6 yays and 5 nays. And so the motion carries. And the motion again is that we will vote to, we have voted in support of the DC Democratic Party's position on Initiative 83, which is to not support that. And then also to not allow further discussion or outside discussion from the other side to present to this body. I will say that on the latter part, again, these poison pill things, I'm always for more information, but at the end of the day, the motion carries. And so it is so. Thank you all for voting. Anything else before we close?
I had $50 for every time.
$50? I'm sorry. You have $50 for us? Is that what you said, David? Okay.
Hey, Troy.
Yes.
Hey, I do. I know you said for Daryl to talk to us about his issues, but there's one that I would like to highlight because there's an application deadline.
Good. Can you go on camera?
I am at my child's swim meet, so I am not in the best position to.
Okay. I'm just
be
saying
on camera.
people just looking at me, you know, and I know
My
I'm
picture's
nice
there.
looking,
I
but
I got a great picture up there, man. A great picture.
yeah, the people on Zoom can see you, but not off Zoom. Go ahead with
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. So, Daryl, just to share information, in terms of the coming out of high school with an associate's, just want to flag that Bard High School, there is that opportunity for students, but DC overall does have a dual enrollment consortium program. There are several universities in the district that participate where students, while they are in high school, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, can earn college credits. The actual application is now open. The deadline, I believe, is February 23rd. And if I can find it real quick, I will drop the link in the chat. But that opportunity is there. American participates, Bard. We have Trinity Washington University, UDC participates, Virginia State University, George Mason, and a couple other colleges participate where our students can earn college credits while they are in high school. So I'll drop that information in the chat. Just wanted to share that. The application deadline is February 23rd.
Got it. Thank you for that. I did just want to correct the record about the quorum. Quorum is actually 10 members of the organization, inclusive of the presiding officer. It is not 15. 15 is for if you need to call a special meeting of the organization. It will take either the president can do that on his own, on their own, majority of the executive members, or 15 members of the organization, just so that we're clear. All right, anything further for the good of the order? For the good of the order. Well, folks, I just want to just say this has been an incredible meeting as promised. And so I just want to once again just thank those who helped to make this possible. I want to thank Councilmember Robert White. I want to thank Deirdre Brown. I want to thank our executive committee who you've heard from today. And then also all of you for joining us here. And those of you who are watching via the Facebook Live. Make sure that you join us next month, which we will be sure to have a pretty live and on-topic discussion as well. Remember, we are in election season. We are leading up to the Democratic primary here in Washington, D.C., which is June 4th. And while we know that the president is at the top of the ticket, there are other very important local races on that will be on that ballot, really leading up into June 4th. That's now the last day to vote. The first day to vote is going to be sometime probably around Mother's Day when you get your mail-in ballot. So we're going to be here for you every step of the way, helping to guide you and answer your questions as we lead up to that final day to vote, which is on June 4th, 2024, Tuesday. I do want to say that we have some candidate forums coming up very soon. And so keep an eye out to what we're doing here at the Ward 8 Democrats. Make sure you're following us on our socials. Make sure you are getting our email. If you are on this call and you haven't received our email from us, then make sure you just send us a note and say, hey, make sure I'm on your list, and so that you can get the latest information from us. We, again, want to let you know that March 24th is the last day to do the your candidacy if you want to run for a delegate to the National Convention in Chicago, that's the last day for you to submit your candidacy to the DC Democratic Party. So if you are interested in that, and we hope that you are, please do that. Again, if you're in we are what they call Congressional District 1, which includes wards 1, 2, 6, and Ward 8. And so March 25th, let me amend my statement. March 25th is the last day for you to indicate if you want to run as a district level delegate. And we are looking for some good men and women to run from Ward 8. You can run as a slate, which means you should slate up with other members from other wards, either 1, 2, or 6. Or you can slate up just all here in Ward 8, or you can run solo. It's really up to you. And again, that election date is going to be on April 20th at the DC Convention Center all day from 8 to 8. So if you miss any of that, go to the DC Democratic Party's website. Also, I want to let you know that we are looking for people to join one of our committees. We have Committee on Programming, Issues and Legislative Affairs, Seniors, Membership, Public Relations, Fundraising, Youth, Special Events. We even have precinct captains, and we have canvassers. We have everything. We have a place for you here at the Ward 8 Democrats if you are looking for an organization where you can share your gifts and talents with the community. I just put the whole slate up on the screen there. The slide is up there, which shows you all of the various committees that we have and opportunities for you to serve. And so we hope that you will take us up on this. Send us a bio, send us a resume to info@ward8dems.com, and that starts the process. Okay. Well, I think we have said a lot. I want to thank everyone again. Please go in peace. God bless, and we'll see you next month.